Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably seen the news that the secret to scaling on Facebook advertising is all about the volume of creative. Now, unless you are blessed with a mega budget, you've also probably been thinking, how on earth am I able to test that much creative on the tiny budget that I have available? Well, buckle up, because in this video, we're going to work through one of our smaller spending accounts that are generating over 100 creatives a month, and how we go through the process of testing those creatives and also making sure that we're able to use the budget available for maximizing revenue. I've worked with over 150 e-commerce brands across fashion, nutrition, jewelry, and retail, working for some of the biggest brands in the world, including Form Nutrition, Alexandra Miro, My Cosmo Sofas, and On the Beach Holidays. With that being said, let's get into this video. And it's been a while since I got to work on smaller advertising accounts, and as part of some holiday cover, I took over the running of this account, and it was all about onboarding the client and actually getting them set up. And the client had really bought in to the premise of masses of creative in order to unlock growth, which is incredible. But the big challenge that we had with this brand is that we only have around 5.5K a month to maximize revenue. And when the client is sending over 25 to 50 assets in a batch, creative testing is incredibly difficult. So when we first started with the account, we went to our traditional creative testing model. And if you're looking for information about this model, I suggest that you check out 2 of my previous videos, why your Facebook advertising strategy is broken, and on also what pros know about Facebook advertising. So what you can see is that when we first started the account, we went with an ad set budget testing model. So we assigned $50 a day to 3 product drops that were released with 25 creatives in total. And very quickly, we could see that one of the key issues with this was that we were spending $10 here, $10 there, $20 here, $20 there, and we have a product that has around a $400 average order value. So actually getting the volume of spend through assets to generate enough purchases was becoming quite challenging. So what we opted to do was, as a first step, we had to make very quick decisions. So what we looked for was key indicators of performance, and that could be purchases or ROAS as our first step. Any ads that showed promise with that, we moved them into our main scaling campaign. But the problem was that we weren't spending enough with the AOV that the brand has to actually see enough volume of purchases coming through. So then we had to change how we were looking at successful ads, and instead of looking for something where we have massive degrees of confidence of success, we had to reduce our expectations and start to look at some of the more interesting metrics. So things that we were focusing on was a high outbound click-through rate, but then also enough carry through the user journey. So not just clicks for the sake of clicks, but also clicks that became content views, that became add to carts, that became checkouts. And for us, that was as good as we were going to get with the budget available for creative testing. And every day that we prolonged creative testing, one of the big challenges was that we were losing budget from our main scaling campaign. So speed of decision was almost more important than being certain of winners. And we had to take some really calculated choices to graduate creatives from the new collections into our main campaigns. And fortunately, this paid off. This strategy paid off. We got the majority of the assumptions correct. And you can see here that there's 10 purchases in the last 14 days at a 6x ROAS, generating around $9,000 in revenue. So this was a successful way of testing. But we learned some really big lessons through that process. And actually, with smaller advertising budgets, our approach of individual collections with ad set budgets meant that actually the creative testing was quite inefficient. So when the client sent over 75 new creatives for 3 more product drops, we had to adjust our strategy. And what you can see here is that we kept a lot of the testing structure the same. So the audiences that we're running is very broad with exclusions within them. We're splitting out our tests by product category. But the big difference is that instead of assigning a $50 budget per ad set. Instead, this time around, we've opted to assign $150 at a campaign level, so that the idea behind this will be that the ads that have promise will get budget, they will generate conversions, and ads that don't get any budget are very unlikely to scale in our BAU setup, so that we can turn those off. And then we'll be left with a layer of ads where we're not quite sure how they perform. But when we take the winners out and we take the ads out that haven't spent, we'll be able to quite quickly see which of those ads are given spend, and if that spend generates purchases or generates the right indicators, then we can move that into our BAU campaign. But this was a significant lesson, and it gives us the ability to be even more efficient with our testing budgets and get as much of that budget out of creative testing and into scaling, so that if we can put, $150 to use in scaling, we're going to do that. We're also pushing quite heavily for extra budget because we're already 50% of the way to the monthly target with this brand. And there is a common point of view or perspective within the industry that when you're working with smaller advertisers that are generating enough volume of creative, flexible ads is a really good way to go, so that you would create your advantage shopping campaign with flexible ads within it. So that's where you select multiple creatives in one ad and then split that by image or video. The big problem that I have with this is that we surrender control of how an asset will look in a particular placement. We're relying on the algorithm to get it right, and algorithms don't always get it right. So that if you're a founder or a CEO or a brand director and you've poured your heart and soul into the batch of creative and how you want them to look in different placements, the use of flexible ads can really impact that. And what we found is that when we use flexible ads, we surrender too much control, that clients actually end up complaining to us about the way that certain ads are looking. So that this is one way that we're able to actually counteract that and improve performance, is to go through this CBO testing framework. And I think that overall the overarching theme when you're testing high volumes of creative on lower budgets is that you really just can't afford that statistical significance that people with much larger budgets are able to gain. But the positive side of that is that if you're moving creatives quite quickly into your scaling campaigns and they don't work, you can turn them off quite quickly and there's not so much damage done. So the cost of being wrong isn't as significant as if you're working on a 10K a day or a $30,000 budget per day. So you don't need to obsess about statistical significance just yet. And sometimes you have to rely on your gut or on your intuition that you believe that an ad is going to work, and that is enough to put it into your main campaigns. But overall, if you're working on smaller budgets with high volumes of creative, my suggestion would be splitting those out by product or by category at an ad set level, and then assigning your creative testing budget at a campaign level and then optimizing those campaigns. It's going to allow you to get out of the inefficient testing process quicker, and it's going to get you into scaling. And now that you understand how to creative test with high volumes on low budgets, what you may need is a really clear strategy of how you go to the next level. If that's you, then you can click the link below to book a call with our team, and we'll happily guide you through each of the steps in your growth journey. And if you're not quite ready for that yet, I suggest you check out one of my latest videos, why your Facebook advertising strategy is broken and what you need to know in order to fix it. We'll see you in the next one.